What's going on, ladies and gents? This is Bento with another Steam controller playtest, and this time I'm going to be trying it out on Dying Light. Now, Dying Light's actually pretty fun with the Steam controller because of all of the parkour elements, and I think what makes it extra special is just the combat elements, and of course, it is the zombie apocalypse. Now, as for my actual controller configuration, I am using a complete mouse and keyboard style of input, and I am using a sort of typical FPS input as well. So for my control scheme, the left trigger is the right mouse button, and it's actually a dual trigger function, so it's actually the soft pull. The hard pull is actually the look back, so I use that whenever I need to sprint. For my right trigger, I have just the soft pull action. It is dual trigger function, so I have the soft pull on attack, and I actually do have the right pull or full pull action on grappling hook. Now, unfortunately, I don't have the grappling hook at the moment, so I can't really show it to you guys. But I think it's useful on the right trigger just because so you have better aiming whenever you need to use it. For my left bumper, it is just the survivor sense. For the right bumper, it's actually the equipment usage, so whatever you have right now, and I have the UV light. Left trackpad is actually a touch menu, and I am using a pretty specific one where the center three are actually just typically stuff that I'd like to use. So weapon tab, cycling just through all my weapons, and if I hold it, it actually brings up the weapon menu. Similarly for the equipment, and if I tap it, it does cycle through. But if I want more, I guess just to know where things are going, I do have a previous equipment, next equipment, previous weapon, and next weapon option just for that. I like these all on the trackpad just because I have easier access to them. For my right trackpad, I just have a typical camera mouse style input with a trackball on. So again, just for that awesome turning and getting used and moving. Left thumbstick is just the obvious, which is my movement, and if I click it, it actually goes to sprint. Left grip is actually to crouch, and it is on toggle. Right grip is to jump. The face buttons are sort of typical. A for me is actually to use. B is the second use, so that's when you want to light up the traps and stuff. Y is just your flashlight. And X is to reload, and repair. Technically, if you hold it, it's used to repair weapons. And I do have start and select as escape for the inventory. Well, actually, it's I for inventory on the select button. And start is just my escape menu if I need to go back to the main menu. So that about covers it. Let's get into the actual gameplay. So overall, the Steam controller with Dying Light feels quite amazing, actually. In terms of control, it actually feels a lot similar to Mirror's Edge, and essentially both of those games have parkour elements. But traversing, climbing on objects, well, unfortunately here I couldn't, but just trying to go from obstacle to obstacle, jumping from rooftop to rooftop feels really good. One thing I didn't go over in Mirror's Edge is the combat, and that's primarily because I just try to avoid combat as much as possible. But because combat is a lot more prevalent with Dying Light, it feels pretty good. I think using the kick actions, it feels really nice in conjunction with having crouch on my left grip and kick on my right trackpad, as well as having to jump kick also feels nice. Combat with the melee weapon is just as you'd expect. Nothing too surprising for me because I'm kind of used to other FPS games. I didn't get much into shooting, but I would have assumed that judging from my view of how the melee combat felt, I think range combat would have been good as well. As for camera movement, I think it felt really good. Similar to my Left 4 Dead 2 video, if you guys have ever seen that. It's important to really turn your camera around, especially with a zombie game where they might just creep up behind you. And so with the trackball motion and the mouse style of input, I think it really helps with just making sure you're aware of your surroundings. Something similar to Mirror's Edge is using the motion control to aim for ledges and look down on where you're about to land. I think it helps because it feels kind of fluid in some way rather than having to use the quick motions of the trackpad. And it feels kind of cool when you're actually jumping off a ledge and you want to look down on where you're about to land, and instead you can just use the motion control to get a quick glance. I actually really like dropkicking in this game. I have no clue why, but I think maybe because it's just really fun to dropkick zombies. but it feels pretty fluid, and it feels kind of more gratifying when you're actually using the Steam controller. But that's just me. One thing I think the Steam controller lacks in comparison to the keyboard and mouse combo is trying to access your skills and items a lot quicker. Because normally you have your F keys for that, where you pretty much just easily access the skill menu or even your crafting menu. I'm fine with it for my Steam controller just because I just have to access the inventory and I can just click around to get there. But if you want, you could always just customize the face buttons. You can mode shift them, and then you can probably just set them to any of your F keys, so that way you can easily access whatever you need. I also thought this control scheme was really good for utilizing dodge. Again, because you still get to have your thumb on your right trackpad, so you can still maneuver the camera even while you're dodging in the middle of combat. I think the grip buttons are what really makes the Steam controller, as well as a couple other ones like the Xbox One Elite controller. I think what makes them really stand out because the grips sort of help with additional functionality that you don't have to worry about using your thumb. And what I mean by that is instead of having to jump with the A button, which is normally the case for a lot of games, if you set your jump to either the grips or even the right trackpad click, you essentially don't have to worry about moving your thumb too much, and so your right thumb will always be on your camera stick, either the right trackpad or right stick, so that way you have overall better maneuverability in your gameplay. So I'm actually about to deliver the airdrop, guys, and that'll be it for gameplay. But again, the Steam controller feels really good for Dying Light. Definitely feels similar to Mirror's Edge in terms of gameplay, but I also have the control scheme set up pretty similarly. But responsiveness, movement, control-wise, it all feels really good. So if you want to use the Steam controller for a zombie apocalypse with some parkour action, I definitely think Dying Light is worth checking out. But that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.